Kylie, welcome to the How to Be a Redhead show. How are
Hello,
you?
thank you. I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk with you. So, a question we like to ask our guests who are redheads: what was it like for you personally growing up with red hair?
I asked my parents, and they might have a different response, but I feel like growing up as a redhead was so much fun. I have so many friends that tell me that they like got made fun of as a redhead or like when they were younger, but
Mm.
honestly, that never happened to me. I was always like super loud, outgoing, still am both of those things. And honestly, I love attention, and so being a redhead, obviously you stand out a little bit more. So got a lot more
Mm.
of that, and I don't know, like I just love it. I think it's fun. It has a lot to do with my personality, and yeah, I mean, I was definitely a hard kid to raise, but I had a lot of fun growing up.
That's awesome. So you grew up in Utah, right? You're in Utah
Yeah,
now.
currently, yep. I grew up like on the south end of Salt Lake City, and I live a little bit more north now, closer to downtown. But yeah, I've grown up here in Utah my whole
Cool.
life.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I know we love Park
Oh
City.
yeah.
We really love Utah. Every time we go, it's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
Utah's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it
I love it
is.
here so much.
So you
It
really
really
did have a good experience growing up as a redhead.
Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I did. And I feel weird saying that because now that I have redhead clients and natural redhead clients coming to me, there's such a
And
vast amount of people that tell me that like they did not like being a redhead growing up and they hated their hair growing
yeah.
up. And that
Yeah.
just never happened to me. I don't know if my parents were just encouraging because one of my older sisters has strawberry hair, but I'm like a pretty vibrant redhead compared to her. And they were always just like, your hair's so pretty. And so I don't know if they instilled this like level of confidence in me or really what it was, but
Yeah.
I was
Mm-hmm.
always just like, no, my hair's great. Like anybody who has opinions otherwise is wrong. So I don't know. I had a
Yeah.
great experience growing up. So yeah.
You don't know how many parents write us daily about
Really?
how to give their kids, redhead kids, confidence, especially if they're not a redhead. Like
Mm-hmm.
just a few weeks ago, I was at an airport in the lounge and this mom came up to me and she was like, she didn't even know what I did. She didn't even know about how to be a redhead. And she started talking to me about being a redhead and her daughter's like coming, she's like 12 or 13 years old. So she's like coming into like that age group.
Nice.
And she's like, any tips? Like, any tips? And then I was like, wow, my sister and I started this brand. And like, then I met another woman and like she had seen us on Shark Tank and she was like, oh, can you give my daughter some inspiration? And I'm always loving the parents who are wanting to give their kids this confidence because
Yes.
just like you must
Mm-hmm.
have had great parents to instill
Yeah.
that confidence in you because you just loved who you were. And that's what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I think to me personally, it's dumb to be insecure about something that you can't change. I mean, you can change your hair color, but like you were
Yeah.
born a
Yeah.
redhead and like it's so beautiful. And I feel like it's taken for granted in so many different ways, but to me, I like can pick out a redhead from a crowd and be like, I want to be your friend. I was at a concert last night and I went up to a girl and I was like, "You're so beautiful." And she was a redhead and we're now friends. We have each other's Instagrams and I'm like, it's just
Oh,
fun. It's like a
really?
little
That's so
community.
great that you did
Yeah,
that. Yeah, it
I love
is. We
it.
say it's like a secret club.
Absolutely. That's why I specialize in reds. I'm trying to make more of them just pop up everywhere because I want everyone to be a part of the club because it's great.
Yeah, Yeah, and because we it's want like to
Yeah.
go in. I know. And we want to go into
Yeah.
that, your social media and how you got into specializing in red hair coloring. Because we love that, like your Instagram page says your name and then Utah Redheads. And then underneath that, it says Utah Redhead Color
Yeah.
Artist. And so for our listeners that are learning about you maybe for the first time, or maybe they're even from listening and seeing us and they live in Utah,
Yeah.
but how did you specialize in red hair coloring? Is it because you're a redhead yourself and you saw a need for with your clients turning red or upping their red, which we'll go into?
Yeah. Yeah. So me specializing in red was kind of the happiest accident that's ever happened to me. I
Oh, okay.
started doing hair about 7 years ago. And I, like what I said, I'm from Utah. And if you know anything about Utah, Utah is kind of like the mecca of beauty services, hair, lashes, all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And when you come here, you're going to find a lot of hairstylists who specialize in blonding services, extensions,
Hmm.
things like that. And I still offer those services. So I am not like I'm not bagging on those services at all. But I
Mm.
realized I would have people come in, and I had one natural redhead come in, and I still remember her. She's still one of my clients to this day. And she was like, I want to keep my natural color, but I just want to enhance it. And I had only
Yeah.
colored my hair one time at this point. And the girl who did my hair thankfully did a really great job. But I was like, it just needs like a little bit. And they'd say, I've had so many other redhead clients come in and say, when I go get my hair done at the salon, I say, I just want a few highlights and I come out blonde. And I was like, oh my gosh, hey, how do I do this? So I started experimenting with her hair, started adding in some like copper low lights, adding just a little bit of highlighting and stuff like that. And honestly, it just kind of took off from there. I had one client that she was blonde and she wanted to try red. And I just kind of started to realize that like there's a huge gap in the industry as far as red coloring goes, because red is not a one size fits all. There's not one box of color that's going to make you a redhead. My formulas and everything that I do to formulate and to think through a redhead process is a lot more intense than just saying, okay, you want to be brunette, I'm going to put these two colors on you. It's a lot more complex than people think it is. So I realized there was a gap in the industry. I wanted to fill it, and who better than someone who's redhead themselves to do it? And I understand it really well. So it's the happiest accident that's ever happened to me. 90% of my clientele is redheads, and I absolutely
Wow, 90%. That is amazing.
it's I'm building an empire out here. So I mean, I'm just
That is
adding to
so
the group.
cool. That
Yeah.
is so cool.
Why is it about Utah being like beauty mecca? I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, for the West Coast at least, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but
Okay.
at least for the West Coast, we're kind of known. Like we have people that come to Utah for hair school or for nail school or things like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
There's just so much going on here as far as, I mean, we have some of like I mean, don't quote me on this, but we have some of like the best plastic surgeons here. We've got tons of lash companies here. We've got like some of the top hair extension brands here as well. So I think just because Utah is so beauty oriented, it's kind of become that way.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's at least in my experience with working with people outside of Utah, here you're going to have a lot higher concentration of beauty professionals than you would in other states.
Cool. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
We love Park City too.
Yeah.
What
Park
a
City's
what a beautiful place. Yeah. Really, really nice.
Yeah.
Really love it. So we love your redhead transformations on social media that you show.
Yeah.
What hair care instructions do you give to your clients when they have dyed red hair? I think this is really important. So like, even if it's a natural redhead or someone, you know, who just went red for the first time, there's a lot of upkeep when you become a redhead or when you have red dye in your hair. It does fade really quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a disclaimer that I give. I have a whole booking process that clients have to go through before they can actually book an appointment with me. And I won't say that I don't try to not convince them to do it, but I basically kind of either scare them a little bit so they understand that like it's a commitment and you need to like keep up with it if you want it to look good. So one of my things that I kind of say in the spiel is like, you need to be prepared for salon visits, regular salon visits every 6 to 8 weeks. And you need to be investing in a good product. I send them home with like a whole sheet of products I recommend, how to take care of your hair and everything like that. So some things that are on that sheet are, I don't think that there's one shampoo or conditioner for colored red hair that is like the absolute, like mecca, like one all be all type of situation. But I think that a detergent, sulfate free, paraben free, hair shampoo or hair care system is going to be your best friend. So that is one of the biggest things that I recommend as far as products that I would recommend. Having said that, rinsing your hair in cold water or at least lukewarm, like don't freeze yourself in the shower or anything like that. But I myself am a fan of really hot showers, but your hair is not a fan of hot showers. So rinsing your hair in water that is a little bit cooler is going to help with keeping the color molecules in there. Heat drives color molecules out of the hair. Same thing with hair tools. There are people who are using like an absurdly high temperature for their heat tools. And this goes for natural redheads as well. This is like for all hair types. your hair tool should not be higher than about 280 to like 360. Anything above that
Wow.
is, unless you have like the most coarse hair in the world, then I
Okay.
wouldn't use anything above 280 to 360 on your hair. That's for natural redheads, colored hair, especially for colored hair, because like I said, heat drives color molecules out of the cuticle. So I would keep the hair.
Oh, so
Go ahead.
the more you straighten your hair or
Mhm.
blow dry it, you're stripping the color.
Yeah, I mean, the color will definitely stay in there. Like, it's not going to be like you take one pass of the blow dryer and, oh, bye, there goes the color. But it's definitely a
Yeah,
little
right.
bit more.
It's a
Yeah,
process.
it will
Okay.
Yeah.
fade. So that's why heat protectants are important. Using something that's going to put a barrier in between your hair and the color, or I'm sorry, your hair and the heat tool is going to really help keep
Mm-hmm.
the color in there a little bit longer.
Oh,
Okay.
that's great.
And then,
That's a great tip.
okay, so then so someone comes in, isn't a redhead, they want to go
Yeah.
red. So of course you need to use a dye,
Mhm.
the commitment every 6 to 8
Mhm.
weeks. How about a redhead, natural redhead comes in, like myself? I use color depositing shampoos and at-home hair glosses to up my hair.
Right.
My hair has definitely faded over the years. Um, it's browned out at times, so I've had to really up it. And I know what works for my hair. I used to go to the salon, and then when I got pregnant and COVID, I
Yeah.
stopped several years ago, and now I know how to. Again, I know what products to use at home. But and I am only saying this for to go into the question on if a redhead comes in natural and they want to up it, they want maybe low maintenance, not to see roots. What do you recommend?
So there's two different things that I would, there's two different ways that I would approach the situation as far as enhancing their hair, because I feel like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times you can put like maybe 4 foils in a redhead's hair and it's going to make a huge difference. Having said that, I've also had other
Oh,
redheads
okay.
come in that it's like you put, 15 foils in their hair of low lights, whether it be a copper or a red, because those two colors are not the same to me. But I feel like if you even put in like 20 foils into that client's hair, it sometimes isn't enough of a change for them. So I would say
Okay.
for someone who's coming in that wants low maintenance, I would recommend a color depositing shampoo to use at home in congruence with a gloss service at the salon, or maybe
Okay.
doing like some low lights. A couple of highlights around the face, but something that's really blended that's going to grow out. Personally, that's what I do on myself,
Okay.
is just like
Okay.
few little highlights around the face, some low lights, and then a color depositing shampoo, whether that be like the How to Be a Redhead shampoo or a different
Mm.
shampoo, but any of them are great. And so it just kind of depends on what you feel is best for your hair. But I always send my clients home with recommendations as far as aftercare to keep up on glosses so that they can go longer in between appointments.
Okay. And then lastly, how about a natural redhead who comes in and are seeing whites in their hair or
Me.
gray?
That's me. Like, I'm so worried. I've never dyed it. And I'm
Yeah,
so
what do you
Yeah.
worried for that moment where I have to go in and sit there and say, okay, I need to get rid of the whites because that's just my personality. I'm going to want that. So
Yeah.
that's such a good question, Steph, because I feel like in the next 5 years, that's going to be
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. My aunt is a natural redhead and we are kind of going through this process with her as well. So the way that I approach, I like to call them like wisdom hairs or just like little sprinkles or
Yes.
sparkles, because
Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
love that because it
yeah,
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
you earn them, so I feel like they should be called something fun. So my
Yeah.
aunt is currently going gray, and the way that I approach it is, if you are anything less than 30% gray, I am never going to recommend doing like an Oliver color on your hair, because that is so much maintenance and you don't have enough gray to really need it. So, although some of my clients get
Okay.
frustrated by that because they don't want to see them, one thing that I love to do in those situations is use a gloss, like a demi-permanent gloss, which has enough
Yeah.
power where it's going to like cover the hair. Like I explain it to them as it's kind of like a lip gloss for the hair. It's going to do its job originally, but it's going to fade over time. And that's just something you kind of have to be okay with, because the other solution is to completely cover it and then you have a harsh line of demarcation, which covers the gray, but then
Mm.
you're coming into the salon every 4 to 6 weeks to get that touched up.
Yeah.
So a demi-permanent gloss is my first kind of approach to combat that. And then also, a lot of people will notice first that they have a lot more gray around their hairline, or that's where they notice it first, because that's obviously what you see in the mirror. So adding highlights into that area will kind of help mask those a little bit and just kind of like keep the maintenance at bay for a while. Once you start to notice more, I will say using a permanent color is a little bit better, just because it will kind of help you really get rid of them. But for longevity purposes, I would say a gloss is probably the best case scenario, and also like adding a few little highlights here and there without actually losing the red. So just adding some little sparkles throughout to kind of help camouflage the actual sparkles will also kind of help combat the process that we can't deny, which is aging.
I know.
What about, I'm thinking about myself, and I'm thinking like, okay, let's just say it's 30 years from now, and I'm going to a new hair colorist. My hair is really white, and I bring a picture in of my color now, or maybe from 10 years ago. Do you recommend that people bring in photos like of what their hair used to be? I know that you won't be able to match that completely, and they have to realize that the expectation can't be that it's going to be what they were used to when they were younger. But I think that could help a lot of redheads to bring in photos and color, because there's so many red shades, right?
Yes.
I mean, you must feel like there are still, someone's like, I want to be red. There's 1,000 times 1,000 shades of red.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I am a huge fan of pictures. I actually require it. With my booking process, I have a form that every single client has to fill out, and it's like pretty in depth. And I used to be kind of embarrassed and be like, I feel like it's kind of like hard to book an appointment, but honestly, I feel like I've set it up in a way where everyone that comes into my chair and is even meeting me for the first time, we've already talked. We already know what they want. We've already talked about price. And so by the time they're actually in my chair, we are just having so much fun. They're so excited to get their hair done. We've gotten all the stressful stuff out of the way. So
there's no surprises.
Yeah, exactly. So on the form, there's 2 slots for what your hair currently looks like, and then a huge file for all of your inspo photos. Because for me, and I mentioned earlier, red and copper are two different colors to me, like 2 completely different colors. Although a redhead term is used interchangeably, red, copper, auburn, cherry red, cherry cola, the cowboy copper trend, all of those are like so different. And so pictures are really the only way that I'm able to grasp what you want, because to me, copper is something different than it is to someone else. I would consider a copper as like a lighter color, whereas someone comes in with a cowboy copper and that's a dark copper. So pictures really are one of the only ways that I can really kind of differentiate as far as what they're looking for. And it also helps me grasp what they're looking for in terms of tone, because you could have a redhead that's more red based, or you could have a redhead that's more auburn based, or you could have a strawberry blonde, and all of those are in the red category. So yeah, photos are definitely needed, definitely required to book an appointment with me, or I would say really any hairdresser that you're wanting to go red with.
Yeah, right. And do you feel like anyone can pull off red?
I have been thinking about this so much lately, and I personally, it's a yes and no, which is not like a real answer, but I feel like if you find the right tone, you definitely can. I've had clients that have used like AI, they've used filters, they've done all these things to try and figure out like if it's going to look good on them. And I feel like if you can find the right tone of red, yes, I feel like most people can pull it off. Having said that, it mostly comes down to what your hair is going to allow me to do, because there are a lot of clients that come in and their hair just is so coarse, or has had so much done to it that like it's just not going to work out. So sometimes outside factors can affect if you can have red hair. As far as pulling it off, yes, I would say everyone should try it. I think that like having red hair also comes along with like a personality trait that not everybody has.
Yeah.
I know. I did see that Kendall Jenner, she went red, I think last year or the year before. And she was in a recent interview with Vogue, and she was going through some of her previous looks. And she said she would love to go back red. But even for her, who she has a full hair person.
Yes.
For her, it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
too much work.
Yeah.
But she loved it and she wants to go back. And I was like, it's so much work that she can't even do it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy, like she
Yeah.
wasn't poorly prepared probably, and she loved it, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
something that she could do every day. And who
Yeah.
knows?
It's fun. For a season, it's fun. I've had clients that they're blonde and they know they want to go dark, but I tell them like, it's going to fade a lot. So they'll say, well, let's try red before we go completely dark just to see. And then one of my clients in particular, she was like white platinum blonde. And I took her red just for like a session. And she has been red for about 2.5 years. And she loves it. And she has adopted the redhead personality. She tells me every time,
Love
she's
it.
like, my husband loves me as redhead instead of as a blonde because I'm so much
Oh.
spunkier. And I truly believe that, like, I now warn most of my clients, I'm like, don't be surprised if you leave here and your attitude is different or you have an attitude, because it happens.
Yeah. I love that.
So
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So on TikTok, you have a pinned post about how you specialize in red hair, and comments from other hairdressers say, quote, I struggle with reds that are just so meticulous, end quote. And then another quote, teach a class, please. Reds are my enemy. So what is difficult about doing red transformations? I know you've touched upon, it's such a complex color. It's not like brunette where you mix two shades. Is that the reason why maybe colorists are either
It's a
maybe they're
skill.
scared or it's very complex?
yeah, I would say so. Red is a whole beast in and of itself. It's a beautiful beast. Like, I love it, but it is a beast in and of itself because when you decide to go brunette, and I'm going to dumb it down simply because the chemistry behind it is just like, anyone who's not a hairdresser
complex.
is not going to be interested in hearing about it.
Yeah.
When you want to go brunette, it's pretty simple. You only have a few levels of options. When you go red, you have almost every single level of option, but it's just different tones. And so, also your starting canvas can really affect the way that you formulate colors. So for example, if I had someone coming in that was like a white platinum blonde and wanted to be red, and they showed me the same picture that someone who had dark hair came in and they both wanted the same color, their two formulas are going to be completely different. One is going to require a color that lifts and deposits. One's going to require a color that only deposits, but I'm going to have to add in some natural pigments into that to be able to make it the same tone as the person who already has the underlying natural pigment. So it's a lot more, you have to approach it in terms of, instead of looking at the color on the shelf, just being like, okay, well, this is a level 2 brown and they want an ash undertone, so I'm going to grab a level 2 ash brown. You have to think, okay, my client has natural underlying pigments. I need to add in reds. I also need to add in some gold, some copper, some neutral as well if they require that. So I would say it is a struggle and it is really, really hard. Just because, like I said, there's not one box that you can pick up and be like, oh, this will be red. It's quite the potion that you have to mix in terms of formulating the colors. So yeah, it is a difficult color, but I feel like I've taken a lot of time to learn how to master it. And I wouldn't go as far to say that I'm quite a master at it yet, but I've definitely learned some tips and tricks along the way to be able to get those clients their dream hair and have them come in with an array of starting canvases and get them to their goal picture.
Yeah, and it is true too. Oh, Steph,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that, isn't it true that when it's like, let's just say it's a redhead or a person who just went red for their first time, when they go back, it's never going to be that exact same color, right? Like, it always is going to be a little bit different because you're making that custom every time. Is that correct?
Okay, wait, sorry. Say that one more time.
So if someone comes in and they're a natural, let's just say they just went red for their first time. They're coming back for a touch up. I don't know. A couple months down the road.
6 to 8 weeks later. Yeah.
Is it going to be a little bit different because you're doing that formula brand new for them, right? Like, it's going to be it's not going to be the exact same.
Right. Okay. So I try to keep it as similar as possible. So I make sure with every single redhead that is a synthetic redhead, I write down their formulas because everybody's formula is different. So in my booking system, I Either my assistant or myself will write down the formula as I'm mixing it. The proportions, the measurements, what the color line, because I do mix color lines sometimes as well. So when they come in for their touch-up appointment, I will refer back to that formula as long as they're not wanting to change anything. Because obviously if they're wanting to change something about the color that they had, we approach it in a different way. But if they're coming in for just a touch-up, I'll refer back to the formula that I have and mix it as close as possible. Thankfully, we have had no issues with people being like, oh, it looks a little bit different today. But I also do gloss the rest of their hair most of the time when they come in for touch-up. So even though their roots are the only things being mostly colored, the rest of their hair does get a little bit of a lip gloss to it. So it kind of marries it all together. So it looks nice.
Yeah. That's so cool. Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com.
Yeah, that is cool. And how about, I know we touched upon, your, the client forms that someone fills out beforehand, before an appointment is in the books on your end.
Yeah.
And they share what they want and their inspiration. But how about, has there ever been a situation where they've done all that, then they get in the chair and they're like, actually, Kylee, I don't want to keep my blonde or brunette. I want to go completely, I want to go red. Or maybe you bring it up. And so how do you advise them? Like, do you hold up a sample to their hair, their face, and say, it will look good? Like, what do you use? Or do they maybe just trust you in your opinion?
It's different every time. I have been thrown curveballs more times than I care to admit by my clients.
Okay. I would say, yeah, that's exactly a curveball.
Yeah.
You were thrown a curveball.
It keeps me on my toes, so I actually kind of like it, because I sometimes, you can get lost in the emotion of doing the same thing. But no, my clients are great. They definitely keep me on my toes. I have had a couple of clients come in that have just been like, I've scheduled them for a regular maintenance appointment, and they come in and they're like, I'm feeling crazy. I want to do something crazy. And I'm just like, oh girl, okay, let's ride this wave together. My first question to them is always like, what's going on at home? Like, why are we making this decision? Especially if it's something like I want to cut bangs, or something that's like a little bit more permanent, just because I'm like, I support your decision to be crazy and to be a little bit wild and stuff like that. But I will always ask, like, are you going through a breakup? Is something happening at home? Like, is this something that we might regret in a couple weeks? And if we've gone through that and we've made the decision that we want to change, I will go and get usually like a swatch book and kind of help them figure out exactly what they're wanting. We'll look at samples, we'll look at pictures, and just kind of figure out and pinpoint a little bit more what they're wanting. If I have time for the process, we'll do it. If not, I'll say like, okay, well, glad we got this out of the way now. I don't have time for this, but we can do, something temporary, just do a cut today and schedule you for the transformation. But more than anything, my first line of defense with when someone wants to change their hair color and I wasn't expecting it, I make them show me pictures, grab the swatch book, and I asked so many questions. I feel like some of my clients are just like, Kylee, I don't care. Just like, choose. But I'm like, but if I make the decision and you hate it, then it's on me. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, and they have to live with that. Like, that's their head and their hair. Like, they have to live with it.
And my biggest thing is like, I may know how to do hair, but you are the only person that knows your hair better than anybody else. You do your hair every day. It's on your head. So although I know like the chemistry of hair and I know how hair behaves most of the time, I don't know your head of hair. So the questions that I ask really help me kind of learn like how you style your hair, your lifestyle, your environment, things like that will really help me kind of figure out everything to do with your hair. Like, I feel like when I ask people, I'll say like, well, where do you live in the city? And they'll be like, what does that have to do with my hair? I'm like, it has a lot to do, because here we have super hard water. And in some cities, it's worse than others. So when clients,
that's going to
affect the way that they're
affect the
colored.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
I wanted to ask about hair extensions
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you touched upon it briefly. What,
Mhm.
it's one of those questions that Adrian, we get asked quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
do you
there's so many
recommend it?
different shades of red. So they want
So
it to be like
many.
custom for their red, which is hard. That's
Very.
So
hard.
is that what you do in the salon? Is that what you do with clients
Yeah.
that are natural or not natural redheads with hair extensions?
Yeah. Yeah. So I use a couple of different hair extension lines, simply because
Okay.
I am a believer of this with all things red. I do not believe that there is like one hair extension, hair color, anything like that company that is, has everything that I want in it. And I prefer it that
Okay.
way just because I like trying
You
different
can
things.
pick and choose,
Yeah,
mix. Yeah.
exactly. The color, the hair extension line that I use currently, it has a pretty good range of reds, but like no
Okay.
matter the red, there is always some form of custom coloring involved with matching a redhead
Okay.
to extensions. I make sure that it's like a red to begin with so that the fading isn't absolutely horrendous. But no matter, I don't think I know for a fact there hasn't been one redhead that I have done that we haven't custom colored the extensions in one form or another, whether that's they like the extension color more than they like their natural hair color, so we glaze their hair to match the extension color, or vice versa. But yeah, custom coloring is definitely, if you want to be a redhead with extensions, you're gonna have to be okay with getting like a custom color, or
That makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a process, but I mean,
That's
we can
cool.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. I don't know. I was thinking about what you said too about when you have to talk to your clients
Yeah.
about just like what's going on at home, like why do you go through a breakup if you're going red and this is like a sudden change. And there was a trending video. We just did a post on it a couple of weeks ago, but it was a really funny comedian who we follow on Instagram, and she was like in the aisles at CVS and she's pulling red hair dye, and just as she's pulling it, the guy texts her back.
Oh God.
And she's like, oh, like,
She's
so
like,
the whole
never
joke is like,
mind.
she was ready to just drop him and go dye her hair red. And then he texted back and she's like, oh, never mind.
Honestly,
But I just thought that was so funny.
I do feel that. I mean, as someone who's participating in the modern dating world, I feel like I've made decisions like that. Not as far as hair, but I mean, you do some rash things when you're participating in the dating world. But yeah, it is really funny. Like, you wouldn't believe, I've had clients come in and like, I mean, everybody's life is crazy, but they're just like, I just need to control something, and that's what they can control. And I'm like, okay, I would love to give you the control to change it, but maybe let's not do something that you're going to cry about in like 2 weeks. So yeah,
Right.
it's a tough balance.
Right.
You want to give them control, but you also don't want them to hate you or their hair in 2 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah. You also need the schedule in your life to go with the commitment of going to the salon like every 6 to 8 weeks, and that's a lot for some people. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you mentioned, it's good that you mentioned that to your clients, because if they're like, sorry, I don't have that time, then maybe this is option B.
Yeah, it's just not feasible for some people. And in that scenario, I'll say, here's some recommendations for depositing colors until, you can either have the schedule to be able to do what you want to, or, we can meet halfway and do like a more lived in color and maybe just add in some red lowlights to see what you like. But being a redhead it's not a lifestyle for everyone. It's also not feasible for everyone. And it is a luxury service for some if that's what it requires. And I am a believer that like, if you want to make it work, you will. And some people like are like, I have a client that drives from Parachute, Colorado every 8 weeks to come and get her hair done. It's a 6-hour drive, and I love her so much. And I'm always like, you don't have to do this. You know that, right? And she's like, no, but I want to. Like, this is my me time. It's the only time she gets away from her kids, and she loves it.
Wow.
So it is possible. It's just, that's not realistic for everybody, nor does
For everyone.
to do that.
Yeah, everyone's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, because you are a natural redhead, but I'm sure our listeners and viewers are going to wonder too. You do put highlights in, and I love it, right? Do
Thank
you?
you.
Yeah, I do
And so
love that.
tell us about that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, because there's a lot of redheads who are afraid to experiment, or maybe they want to. Like,
Yeah.
what was your journey to decide to put highlights in? And is it something permanent or something that you're just playing around with?
I go back and forth about every 6 months to a year with my hair where I need a change with it. And so
Oh, okay.
I'm a part of
Okay.
I need to control something, I need to change.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about your hair is you can always change it. It's going to grow out no matter what. And so like I used to have super long hair like circa 2020 from like the time I was a child up until 2020 my hair was so long. And then in 2020 went through a breakup and decided to cut it.
Okay.
And it was like the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
So even like
This is a new me kind of thing.
exactly. I love
Yeah.
change. And so I do put highlights in my hair. I just have like a few like little blonde highlights throughout my like we call them money pieces in the hair world. And then I have like a couple of little sparkles throughout just for the summer. I like to lighten it up for the summer. My hair naturally gets pretty light in the summer and I spend a lot of time outdoors. And so I do lighten it up in the summer. And then every single fall, I end up doing just like a nice glaze on it to get it back to like a really rich, deep, like my natural, like auburn color. So that's what I like to do on my hair. I will go through and like add some lowlights occasionally. But yeah, it's really nice because I don't do my hair that often. I cut my hair all the time. I personally don't. I will trim like my curtain bangs and stuff like that. But my sweet mate that I work with, she does my hair. And I don't color it super often, but enough to where I have a little bit of a change every now and again. So yeah, it's fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I was wondering if you're in the dating world. Is that what you said? You said you're dating and
I'm roughing it, but I'm here.
Are you experiencing that when you're really vibrantly bold, let's just say closer to your normal shade or even more vibrant, are you treated different than when you have some highlights in? Do you feel like there's a difference?
You know, I might be outing myself, but I don't feel like I've dated like someone long enough for them to really notice it. Like I mean, I have had guys that I'll like get my hair done and they'll be like, "Oh, like your hair looks different," but they like don't know what it is. And mostly the reasons I'm saying like I'm getting my hair done is why they actually notice it because like let's be honest, that's not the first thing they notice.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I changed my hair drastically enough to where there's really like I notice a difference.
Okay.
I mostly just notice a difference because I'm a redhead, and that comes along with a lot of like assumptions or personality traits that people are just like, "Oh, you're a redhead." So yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where someone says, "I'm really into redheads"?
Yes.
Isn't that the worst?
Yeah.
Isn't that the worst?
I don't know why people think that's a compliment to say to a redhead. It skeeves me out.
It's creepy.
Weird.
Yeah.
To me,
no one wants to hear that.
Yeah, like
PSA, no one wants to hear that.
I like those words like actually left my mouth a couple of weeks ago. I went on a date and he was like, "Did you know you're my first redhead?" And I was like, I never want to hear that
Stop
again.
it.
Ever. Like, am I just like a tick? Like, am I just a box that you're just looking to tick
Right,
off?
a check
like,
box.
now
Like just dated a redhead or went on a date with a redhead.
A blonde or something. Like, it was the weirdest. So, yeah, like, I have had guys that are like, "Oh, I'm really into redheads." I had one guy, he was like, "I'm going to marry a blonde or a redhead. There's no other option." I was like, good luck with that because it's not going to be me. Like, good luck in church. Like,
peace.
So I just like, most of them are really nice and they'll be like, "Your hair's just so pretty," or, you know, whatever else. But I've had a couple that I'm like, wow, bold of you to say that, especially to my face. Like, say it maybe internally, but very bold. And I applaud you, but also don't ever say that again.
Yeah. God, people need to know what to say on a date, don't they?
I know.
I mean, I feel
really
like if they did, I don't feel like as many women would be single as we are because a lot of us are
I agree.
single by choice. And I think I'm becoming one of those.
That is so funny. So to switch gears, we are super honored to see that you have How to Be a Redhead products on your IG and TikTok, which is so nice. Can you tell us what you think? And like, do people ask you? I was wondering if when you're sitting in your chair, if people ask you about beauty products because things kind of have to change
Yeah.
if they do go red for the first time, or I'm sure they must ask you questions because sitting with the hairstylist anyway is like therapy. So I was just wondering.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard so many stories.
Yes. Oh my
Too.
gosh.
Side
That's
note.
I like one thing about me, I'm a yapper. I love that my job, like I will yap all day long. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
So we do talk a lot about beauty products, especially when a client's coming in for their first initial change to be a redhead. One of the main questions I get is brows, because that will be something that is like the first thing they notice is I'll take the towel off their head and they're like, my brows are dark brown and I have light red hair. So we do talk a lot about brows. I have like a whole myriad of products that I prefer for different shades of red, depending on the tone, the darkness, all those different things. I will give them all of my recommendations. I have a couple that I keep like samples of in the studio, and I have like disposable products that will kind of like try them on if I have them on hand. So I do recommend certain brow products to them, or they'll ask like self tanner for redheads and stuff like that. Is it different than our other self tanner? So we talk a lot about that kind of stuff. I will tell them a lot about the How to Be a Redhead mascara and the brow products because I absolutely love them. I actually grabbed the what is this? I think this is the Auburn one.
Finally have lashes.
Yes, yeah. The finally have
that's
lashes.
the
Hourglass.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hourglass
I
one.
love this one. This is like, even though it's mascara, for my darker redheads, it is gorgeous. I love it for like a nice, natural, like just brow, but also for lashes. Like I get brown lash extensions on myself because I feel like they look so much better in terms of like
that's
natural
cool.
instead of black. So even though it's a mascara, it's interchangeable and can be used for brows as well. So I love using like those type of products on like darker redheads, and then for lighter redheads, the actual How to Be like the Finally Have Brows brow gel and volumizing brow gel and pencil and stuff like that. Those are great as well. So I will send them home with like a myriad of products that they can kind of try. But brows is probably the first. Self tanner is probably the second.
Interesting.
And, yeah, that's basically.
How about
I feel like those more than anything.
How about freckles? Because we saw on your Amazon product list that you recommended a faux freckle pen, and we know that they exist. We know some really cool brands that are out there with offering that. So do you ever have clients that are like, oh my gosh, I'm a redhead, but I have no freckles, or now I have red hair. So do they want to put faux freckles on?
Yeah. So I'm actually one of those. I want the freckles, and that's why it's on my Amazon list, just because I'm a frequent faux freckle wearer, because I don't know what happened when I was being made, but they skipped me on the freckles for the redhead jeans. And I'm so upset about it. I don't have.
That's funny,
I have
Kylie.
a shoulder, but they skipped.
Yeah, because the sun hits your shoulders.
Yeah.
How about your knees?
You know, if they were out, I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't think I actually have any on my knees, but I have them like on
I
my
don't
shoulder.
either. I don't have any on my knees. I have them on my arms and shoulders, but like none on my face.
Yeah, I've got them on like my chest. I have a couple on my arms and my shoulders. I randomly have like a couple on my eyelid. One of them looks like the Big Dipper. It's like, I don't know if it's a birthmark.
I have so many on my eyelid.
Yeah.
I can give you some of my. I can give you some of my freckles. Okay. I have thousands.
Perfect. If we could share, I would love that. I don't know what I have to offer you, but like I would love that. So yeah, I am a faux freckle pen user and wearer myself because I am not blessed in that area. So I love the faux freckle pen. There's so many different ones, and to be completely honest with you, I have not found one that I'm like, this is the freckle pen. Like they all offer different things, and it's taken a lot of trial and error to kind of figure out what works for me. Like I saw a TikTok the other day of a girl that was using brown mascara and was putting it on her finger and then dotting it onto her like face, and it looked so good randomly. So I was like, maybe I should try that. Maybe I'll even grab like the brown, like Finally Have Lashes one from your guys' line and like maybe start putting that on and like mix it with the Auburn one. I don't know. There's so many opportunities and options. So
that's cool.
We'll see.
Have you seen the broccoli one?
What did you say?
The broccoli one?
The yeah,
Where you
this like,
dip your broccoli in like a real
oh,
head of broccoli.
I have not seen that one, but that is honestly, that's a
Yeah.
good tip.
They
Yeah.
You
dip it
dip it
into like
in
a
in
pomade
a
or something, like a
like a is it like a bronzer powder?
yeah, something like that. And then think about it, like you know how
Mhm.
like the end of a broccoli is like
Yeah, like the
freckly.
perfect
Like
stipple.
Yeah,
yeah,
type
Oh my
in
god.
freckle broccoli into TikTok.
it's
Seriously.
fascinating.
I'm
It
gonna
really
look at
works. That one TikTok girl, she dyes her hair red.
Meredith
Oh, what's
Duxbury.
Meredith?
oh
Yes, she
yeah,
has.
yeah.
She like trended with that broccoli one, but it was interesting when she started off her beauty video with holding up the broccoli. You're like, where is this
Oh,
going?
Yeah.
But it actually
stop.
came out. Came out really good. I think some people are a little skeeved out because I mean it is a vegetable. It's not like you're
Yeah.
putting
Yeah.
greasy fried food on your face. So yeah, we haven't tried it, but I
I'm
don't think
gonna give it
I
a
would
try.
because I have so many freckles. But Adrian has no freckles like you, Kylie. So you guys are in
Yeah.
the same boat. No
Well, you know
freckles on the
what?
face.
But I love
You're
Stephanie's.
missing
Every time
out.
we're in a photo shoot, I'm like, we have to grab Stephanie because she has like those beautiful freckles
Yeah.
on her eyelids and it just looks so
And
good.
I find this conversation about faux freckles so interesting. It's been brought up several times with other guests that we've had on our podcast this
Yeah.
season, just because it's something where it's so crazy that I'm in my mid 30s now. And I used to despise my freckles
Yeah.
growing up. I wanted to cover them up. I did,
Mm-hmm.
I used to slather on foundation and concealer just to try to cover them up. And then I went through a phase, yeah, where I was just again trying to cover them up all the time. And I've gotten chemical peels throughout the years, just a handful, just to kind of lighten them a little bit so they didn't get turn into like one sunspot.
Yeah.
So that's helped, but I haven't gotten that in like 3 or 4 years, and I love them. And having
Yeah.
a conversation about faux freckles, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy that
That's
I
so
was
cool.
picked on when I was younger for them, and now
Yeah.
people are spending money buying a pen, to
Yes.
enhance it. It just makes me appreciate personally for me my freckles even more because I went through a lot growing up on really, really not liking them.
Yeah. And that's so hard. Like, have you seen the
I
people that
know.
like tattoo them now? There's people that
Yeah, they get
Oh, yeah.
henna
Like
or
permanent
real
tattoos.
yes.
tattoos.
I'm like,
I
Mm-hmm.
listen,
know.
I'm a freckle fan. I don't think that I'm that big of a fan that I'd be willing to do
That
that. But
that's a lot. Yeah, but that's why I love the option that you gave on your
yeah,
Amazon list where okay, here's a pencil. And
yeah,
if you don't like it, that's the beauty of makeup
Makeup.
is if you
Yeah.
don't
absolutely.
like it or you do a bad smoky eye or you mess up with the freckle pen, you just can wipe it off and start over.
Yeah.
And I think that's and then some days if you don't want to rock freckles, you don't have to.
No.
And some days if you do, yeah, I think it's really cool. But having a conversation, I'm like,
Yeah.
I think back to like little Stephanie when I was younger and be like, oh my gosh, it was actually really cool to have a lot of freckles.
I
So,
know. And isn't that sad that you don't notice it until later? And then you're like, dang, I wish I would have like
Yeah.
really stepped into that and like embraced it instead of like tried to like conceal it. And that's like, I
yeah.
hate that, especially with redheads, that's something that like, without getting too crazy, but it's just like, it's something that you kind of have to like mask or that's not as like widely accepted. And it's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, why not? Like, it's so beautiful. And it doesn't matter what hair color you have, but like, no matter the traits that you have, and like, they're so beautiful and they were custom made for you. So, like, why would you not embrace that? Like, what I
Right.
think
Yeah.
is beautiful, someone else isn't going to think beautiful, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's
True.
wrong. So,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I think freckles are so cute. I wish I had them so bad. Like I even saw the like temporary tattoo freckles that you can wear. Definitely ordered those.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten them yet,
Oh,
but we'll have to see
that's really cool.
how they.
And one more thing about freckles, I have a 3.5-year-old son, and he just started to get a few on his nose. And I don't know if they're just popping up because he's outside more with the weather being warmer at school, but I noticed them the other day, and there's one like right in the middle of his nose, and we were brushing his teeth I was brushing his teeth with him, and he asked me what it was. And I was like, oh, it's called a freckle. And then I had to like tell him what
Aw.
a freckle was. But I hope that they stay
Me
because
too.
I'm interested to see if they fade in the winter, which is what happened last year. But
Mm.
he started to get more like on the tops of his cheeks. It's so cute.
Oh, I love freckles so much. I really hope
Yeah.
if I have kids, I really hope that it's a little redheaded little girl. I mean, boys too. Like I love boys, but like a little redheaded kid with freckles. I'm like, I could just eat you. It's so cute. I love it.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
cutest. So tell
Yeah.
us what's next for you and what you have planned,
Yeah.
especially with transforming all these redheads.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a big year for me. I'm actually really, really excited. I am finishing up a project with a graphic designer and I am actually going to start teaching this year. So I will be launching
Wow, that's
a
Cool.
awesome.
series of in-person classes that I'm going to be teaching other hairstylists everything to do with red. So I'm really excited. We finally have the name
Cool.
finalized. We're working on the graphic right now for it. I just did the headshots for it and the branding photo shoot for it like maybe 3 weeks ago. So that will be
Wow.
launching late summer, early fall. And those classes will be here in Salt Lake City for the foreseeable future. Hoping to kind of branch out. I have a couple of out of state salon owner friends that have been interested in hosting me for some classes, but we're going to stay close to home, make sure that the classes are
Yeah.
running smoothly, and then kind of start to branch out. But I'm so excited
Oh.
to share my passion and knowledge about redheaded color theory and just everything redhead. And I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
Congrats. We'll have
Thank
to
you.
definitely include links in the podcast notes, and we'll also include your
Yes.
social handles so our redheads can start following you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would love that.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much for joining us and,
Yes.
keep transforming redheads. Keep adding to
Thank
the club. We
you.
love
I
it.
know we love
Yes.
following you and
Oh
seeing
my
all your
gosh.
beautiful clients.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.